This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome in on Wednesday to Wanna Bet, the gambling show here on Detroit Sports Podcast, brought to you by MyBookie at mybookie.ag. It is the gambling website where you can go place bets on all events all summer long. March Madness may be over, but the NBA playoffs are just getting started. One of the biggest betting events of the year. Also, all summer, MyBookie will be the best place to place your Major League Baseball action. And coming up in just a few weeks, the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont, the Preakness, the Triple Crown horse races, all of it is available to play on mybookie.ag. When you sign up, use promo code DSP. That's promo code DSP for Detroit Sports Podcast, of course. Use that promo code when you sign up for a 50% bonus on your first deposit. Again, go to mybookie.ag, and when you sign up, use promo code DSP for a 50% bonus on your first deposit. All right, it's Wanna Bet here on Detroit Sports Podcast, and I'm here to recap the Final Four. One of my worst gambling weekends of the year, of my life. It was a weekend that affirmed I know absolutely nothing about basketball. The first thing, we'll start with the first game with Auburn and Virginia, where I said that the number, I think on here I said the number looked too high. Unfortunately, with this not being an everyday podcast, I'm not able to get on and change what I pick live. I did end up betting the over on this game. So that's one thing that I got right this weekend. The reason I did it is I started looking, or excuse me, maybe this game did, this did go under. I don't know what I was thinking, but this did go under 132, and 63-62. So I got that one right as far as telling you I got that one wrong on my actual bet. The reason I did it, I fell victim because apparently Virginia had allowed their team, every team they played, to hit the team over 8 out of 10 games. I thought, wow, that's kind of wild. Auburn had gone over every game in the tournament. Their team over was 63.5, and I thought that was kind of a reasonable number, so I took it, and I had Virginia to cover 5.5. Neither of those things happened. Virginia, of course, won by 1 point, nearly lost straight up. Kyle Guy had to hit those 3 free throws, ton of controversial ending. I have some thoughts on the controversialness of the ending. I don't think it was that controversial. Like, the double dribble, I get. Like, there should be something, an eye in the sky type thing where somebody can go, look, you got this wrong. This is a double dribble. We have to go back. We have to get this call right. At the same time, nobody in the booth knew that rule. Charles Barkley said he didn't even know that was a rule. And then you have Kenny Smith saying, the referees were expecting Auburn to foul. Auburn had been fouling. They expected Auburn to foul. They didn't want to blow the whistle to lose the game, knowing that Auburn was going to come down and foul. And so they didn't. And that's where the double dribble doesn't get called. It's a weird call. It's a play a lot of people don't see in the heat of the moment. People don't even know it's a rule. You got Chuck. Again, I didn't know it was a rule. When things like that happen, I'm not going to jump on the referees. And as far as the shooting foul at the end of the game, I understand the idea where, look, if you're a ref, it's a huge game. It's a huge moment. Swallow the whistle. Don't be the one that impacts the game like that. I get it. At the same time, that was a foul. Like, that was textbook foul. He jumped. He didn't give Kyle Guy any space to land. He fouled him. Like, that's just it. He fouled him. And so Kyle Guy stepped up, 3 free throws. And that's the other part of it. He got fouled. He still had to go make 3 of the most clutch free throws of his entire life. So, like, he still had to earn the points. And he did. And then they won. And that's college basketball. It's a reminder that anything in sports can happen, and maybe sometimes it will. This tournament in particular was wild. I have heard a ton of people that said, after the first 2 rounds, it was so chalky. They had their entire Sweet 16, or they had their entire Elite 8, and like I've heard people say, hey, I had my entire Elite 8 correct, and then I had none of my Final 4. And that's kind of what happened to me. I had my entire Elite 8, and then I got only Michigan State was my only correct Final 4 team. And so that kind of sucks. So moving on, talking about Michigan State. Got this game as wrong as I possibly could. I told you last week Michigan State would cover 2.5. I told you this game would go under. The game did go under. My only thing is I got it completely wrong with Michigan State covering 2.5 because they lost by 10 points. And again, just they didn't play well. And as much as people want to credit that Texas Tech defense, guys, it is a really good defense. That's absolutely true. It also just, like, Michigan State didn't play well enough to win. They shot 32% from the field. You can't do that. You can't shoot 7 of 24 from 3. Like, you have to hit open threes. They got open looks. Kenny Goins got plenty of open looks. Top of the key. Missed. Matt McQuaid got an open look in the corner. Missed. All night. Like, they just missed. Izzo, the only time Izzo didn't coach badly, but he did screw up because he fouled out Aaron Henry before he had any fouls. Like, Aaron Henry has to play more than 24 minutes with 2 fouls. He has to. And that's where, like, coaches can do that sometimes where a player will get 2 fouls. They want to protect him. It's what he did with Jaren Jackson last year. Jaren got 2 fouls early, and Izzo fouled him out. That's what he just did with Aaron Henry in this game. And it's not as egregious. It was a Final Four matchup. It wasn't a second-round matchup against Syracuse. It also wasn't benching your star for Ben Carter. But it still was a mistake. And I'm comfortable saying that. I'm also comfortable saying Izzo had maybe the best coaching performance of his last 10 to 15 years as a head coach this season. And so that's just kind of, it's the way she goes. But again, 32% for Michigan State, 15 of 47 shooting. They just didn't play well. Missing 4 free throws, 3 of those being the front end of 1-and-1s. You can't do that. That's how you missed out on 4 points. And again, I know the game was a 10-point loss. You can go, well, it's 4 points. Well, at one point in this game, let's not forget it was 52-51. And if Michigan State, being down 1, has 3 additional free throws, and again, they had 18 free throw attempts. If they had hit the front ends of those 1-and-1s, that number goes up to 21. If you hit 17 of 21 as opposed to 14 of 18, you're looking at you're up then 53 to 52 or 55 to 52 instead of down 52-51. It's a whole different game. You're going to force Texas Tech to play a different style of offense. You're going to force Texas Tech to get maybe more aggressive defensively and kind of take advantage of that in transition, which is something Michigan State's punished all year. They didn't get the opportunity to do it. But when teams would sell out for steals, Michigan State, with their speed and their transition offense, was able to kind of jump on top of that and make things happen down low. Cassius Winston being such an elite playmaker with like incredible court vision, Michigan State could capitalize on those opportunities, and they just didn't. And that's where I don't want to give all of the credit to Texas Tech. Texas Tech played a great game. They did, and it's just you have to give credit where credit is due. But again, Michigan State needed to play better. They wouldn't have beaten anyone playing the way they did. They wouldn't have beaten Duke playing the way they did. And that's just, I got nothing else. They just lost. They didn't play well enough. And I can't get upset. I can't, like, it's just sad. And there's nothing for me to get pissed off at because it was a bad night. Like, Cassius played all right, 16 points, but he was kind of just normal. And if Cassius Winston is just normal, you're not going to win a game against a Texas Tech team that's that dominant on the defensive end of the floor. And that's kind of just what happened for Michigan State. And then the national championship, which I didn't get an opportunity to get on here and talk about too much. I got this one dead wrong, too. I thought Texas Tech was going to beat Virginia. I would have taken Texas Tech on the money line. I would have taken the under because I thought this game was going to finish in like 32 to 35 fashion. It did not. It was a really, really good game. And a lot of people, like, the weirdest thing about this game being so good is the people that are complaining that it was good. And it, like, oh, well, this game was going to be so bad, I wasn't even going to watch. Wow, what a great game. Like, it's kind of just we all won because this game was good, and it shouldn't have been. This game is incredible. Overtime, huge scoring, huge shots. After a really, really bad start, Texas Tech came out, opened the game shooting 1 of 11 after starting 0 for 8. It was 3-2 in like 4.5 minutes into the game. Looked like the under was the safest bet of all time. And then out of nowhere, the defenses opened up. The shooting opened up. And they were just kind of hitting shots back and forth. And Virginia ended up getting the job done in overtime, outscoring Texas Tech 17-9 in the overtime period. But what a game for these two teams. Virginia shooting 46% from the field, 46% from three. That's kind of where Texas Tech fell apart. They took 30 3-point attempts, only hit 10. Just a few more threes, and it's a different game. And then another kind of controversial ending because of the replay review. And I have thoughts on this replay review thing. People got so heated over replay. And I get that you want to say, like the Jay Billis thing, this takes way too long. It does. Replay, it's egregious how long replay takes sometimes. On simple plays where you can look at it and everyone at home, everyone who doesn't even watch basketball, everyone in the world can see immediately on the first replay what happened. Oh, this is out on so-and-so. Or absolutely that's a flagrant foul. Like you can see immediately what happened. And everybody's in agreement. The people in the studio are in agreement. You get Gene Steratore or whoever, the rules expert, to come on, and they're like, yeah, this is a no-brainer for me. And then it takes 5 or 10 minutes anyway. And you got Jay Billis on the sideline talking about, this is just ridiculous how long this takes. They need to come up with a new system. This is insane. It is insane. He's right. It's insane how long these calls can take to make sometimes. At the same time, that's a fine thing to argue. I'm fine if you want to argue that these calls take too long to get right. They do. Replay is one of my favorite things in sports because it allows us to get the call right. Imagine if we had it when Armando Galarraga got ripped out of a perfect game. We didn't, and so he did get ripped out of a perfect game. And that's where human error should not overcome getting it right in situations like that. And that's, people got mad about an out-of-bounds call because DeAndre Hunter very clearly hit the ball out of bounds, and they were saying things like, if you asked Hunter, he would think that was out of bounds on him. If you asked any players, they would say that's out of bounds on Hunter. If you were in the park, that would be out of bounds on Hunter. Here's the thing. You're not in the park. You're playing a national title game. The national championship game. Who gives a shit if Hunter thinks it's out on him or not? He's not an official. If the officials think that there's reason enough to go to the monitor and look at this and figure out who the ball was off of, then they have to go to the monitor and figure out who the ball was off of. Plain and simple. I saw this argument on Twitter. It made no sense. If you play this game at the park, they would have been out on Hunter. If you play this, you're not playing it at the park. If you play this game, you're playing it in a gym. You're playing it for the national title game. You're playing it on live television in front of millions of viewers. Get the call right. And that's what they did. And then people, it was a microscopic image of the ball just grazing off of his finger. And it took 47 replays to Who cares? If they got the call right, it's better than if they get the call wrong. I get the argument. I get that, that's not what replay was made for. Replay was made to get things that are blatantly wrong right. Wasn't replay made to get all calls right? And isn't it weird that now we're complaining that calls are being made correct? Like, using replay to get the call right should never be a point of contention. It doesn't make sense to me as a person. Using replay to get the call right is the point of replay. It's the point. That's why we have it. That's why they expand rules in the NFL now for pass interference and whatnot. That's why they have it, to get the call right. And so now we're whining that they're getting the call right. It just doesn't make sense in my head. But enough of the Final Four. One of my worst weekends betting, and it carried over into the week. Last night I had a bet out. I had the Mets to money line straight up win against the Minnesota Twins. The Twins went into Citi Field and beat the shit out of the Mets 14-4. So I've just had one of the worst, and it was like DeGrom was on the mound. It was supposed to be a continuance of his historic streak of allowing 2 or fewer runs. Just an incredible pitcher, and he got shelled right out of the gate for 6 runs. by a Twins team that I don't think is very good. I was shocked that the Mets lost 14-4, but it's just, I guess it's just a cold streak. I don't know how else to put it. I guess it's just a cold streak. But kind of where I wanted to go now is into some other things. The NBA, really quickly, I just want to cover futures bets for the playoffs. If you're thinking about putting something in, I was looking yesterday. As far as the national championship goes, what the fuck am I talking about? As far as the finals goes, there is no value bet. There's none. Golden State is below even money. They are minus 220. Means you have to bet $220 to win 100. 22 to win 10. It's just not a good bet. And as far as the odds go for anyone else, Milwaukee, I think, was plus 175. But it's like, if Golden State being minus 220, you might as well just avoid it. I'm not going to bet a future on someone to win the finals at the start of the playoffs when I have Golden State getting less than even money. But where I will look is to win the Eastern Conference, because there's a ton of value as far as that goes. And the one that I liked the most, and everybody's going to go, of course Shea is a big fan of this, Homer. The Boston Celtics are plus 400 to win the East. It's 4-1. And if you have paid any attention to the Celtics lately, since Gordon Hayward has started playing well again, they're playing really well. They'd won 6 of 8 games to close out the season. Their last win came with the weirdest roster I've ever seen, where everybody for the Celtics was out. Let me pull up the injury report. And the Celtics won this game anyways. It was literally Aaron Baines out. Gordon Hayward out. Al Horford out. Kyrie Irving out. Marcus Morris out. Marcus Smart out. Jason Tatum out. Like, it was insane. But I look at the Celtics' path through the playoffs. They're going to get Indiana first round, which I think that they can comfortably win in 4 or 5 after seeing what they did to Indiana in Indiana the other night. They beat them by like 30. They'll have Milwaukee in the second round, which is really where you want to get them, because you'll want to get to that team before the Western Conference Finals when you are more gassed and tired. I saw, I think it was HP Basketball, Hardwood Paroxysm, Matt Moore of Action Network, for those of you who don't know, tweet out that if you are Oklahoma City and you're in the Western Conference, you want to get Golden State in the first round. And the reason you want to get them in the first round is because you're more than likely going to have to go through them no matter what. If you don't get them in the first round, you're going to get them in the Western Conference Finals. If you get them in the first round, at least you get to play them when you're rested and healthy, rather than in the Western Conference Finals when everybody on your team is exhausted and you're battling injuries. It's kind of what I feel like with Milwaukee. If you can get through Indiana in 4 games, you get to play Milwaukee fairly rested. Assuming that the rest of the series go long enough to prolong the second round, you get to play Milwaukee fairly rested. And I think that's a bonus for the Celtics. Now, what I mentioned with Gordon Hayward, he's been playing really well lately. When he scores over 14 points, the Celtics are 20-4 on the year. That's not asking a lot. You're asking a max wing player to score 14. It's not asking a ton. And when he scores 14 plus, the Celtics are 20-4 on the year. That's incredible. Might actually be up to 21-4 now. That's incredible. When he doesn't score that, I think I saw they're 27-29. Gordon Hayward is the X factor for the Celtics. And Gordon Hayward is back. Make no mistake about it. Gordon Hayward is back. And I think he's going to lead this team to an Eastern Conference championship. And that's just, to me, getting them at plus 400 is the biggest value pick of the NBA playoffs. It just absolutely is. I think Gordon Hayward, the last 5 games, has averaged 18 points. So he's going over that 14. I think he's, like, since mid-February, he's averaging 16 or something. Like, it's very, very good odds, in my opinion. Gordon Hayward's going over 14. And then again, you look at the Eastern Conference Finals, you're going to get Toronto or you're going to get Philly. I think they'll match up better if you get Toronto. If you get Philly, I think they match up better if they get Philly than if they get Toronto. I think they play Philly much better than they play anyone else. You look at last year in the Eastern Conference semifinals, they had no business beating that Sixers team. They beat them in 5 games. And yeah, the games were close, but still, it's a team that really, everybody before that series was like, the Sixers have arrived. They had such a hot end of the season. There's no way the Celtics, being as hurt as they are, can possibly win this game. And they did. And to me, that's the best matchup because Brett Brown as a coach, it consistently gets outclassed by Brad Stevens. I think the Celtics at plus 400 are the best bet. You know, you got the Sixers, I think, plus 300. You got the Raptors, I think, plus 175. And then the Bucks plus 145. It's something in that range. But I think the Celtics plus 400 is the best value and the best odds. Last thing I want to talk about before I get out of here is the NFL win totals that were released a couple weeks ago. There's a few that I really like, and I will go through these again as we get closer to the season. The Lions being at 7. The over is minus 110. The under also minus 110. I would be inclined to take the over. I think that division is still kind of bad. Just overall, you know, Kirk Cousins has never impressed me as a quarterback. I've not been shy about saying that. He just, to me, he's living proof that choking exists in sports. You know, he took over a Minnesota Vikings team that largely was unchanged by the roster that went to the NFC Championship game, and really maybe better. You know, they got Dalvin Cook back, and Kirk Cousins just was bad. He wasn't great. Like in big games, he just didn't show up. He's Matthew Stafford with better stats last year. Like he pads every stat possible, but he can't get wins. He can't win big games. He doesn't play well in big games. To me, it's just Kirk Cousins does not make the Vikings better. I look at the Bears. I think they might have a little bit of regression. I don't know that you repeat what they did with that defense. I don't know how far Mitch Trubisky takes that next step. And so to me, the Bears are a little bit of a mystery. I think over 7. I don't know that the Lions win 10 or 11 games or anything crazy like that. But I think they have a good shot to go 7-9, 8-8, 9-7 in that range. And so I think 7, the over intrigues me there. Another one that gets me, the Cleveland Browns. It was 9.5. It's down to 9. To me, no question. They're going over. Now, the only issue is the odds are a little rough. Minus 130 for the over, plus 110 for the under. That number realistically should be at about 10, maybe 10.5 to get an even look at those odds. 9, to me, it's a no-brainer. Like it's an ATM that they're going to go over. You have Baker Mayfield, who took huge strides last year to just change the culture. Then you have Jarvis Landry. You have Odell Beckham Jr. You have David Njoku. You have Duke Johnson, who's going to be running the slot receiver position for the Browns. You have Keenan Allen, and you have Nick Chubb. I think they have the best offense in the AFC, if not the NFL. And that's including Kansas City, because who knows what's going to end up happening with Tyreek Hill. You know, I know Mahomes, I'll take Mahomes over Baker, but who knows what's going to end up happening with Tyreek Hill? Who knows if that run game in Kansas City can hold up and be anywhere near as good as it was last year with, what's his name? Damian, what's his last name? It's blanking on it. Anyway, who knows if that run game is going to hold up? Because without Kareem Hunt last year, it didn't really. It was okay. Damian Williams, I believe, but I look at Cleveland and I go, look, Nick Chubb was great last year. Now you're adding Kareem Hunt, and he's not going to play the first 8 games, which means you have Nick Chubb through 8. Then after that, you can put Duke Johnson, split him out at the slot. You've got Keenan Allen, who can come in and take carries away from Nick Chubb, keep Nick Chubb healthy down the stretch. You have Baker Mayfield, who's already been playing well. You have just made his life a lot easier by giving him Odell Beckham Jr. to opposite Jarvis Landry. Look, going over 9 is a no-brainer. I think Cleveland wins the North. I think Cleveland goes to the playoffs. I think Cleveland maybe gets to the AFC Championship game. The other ones, you know, New England, I think, comes in at the highest at 11, which I'd almost be inclined to bet the under on this, but it's New England. Like, and it's Tom Brady. He's still there. I'll take the over just because it's Tom Brady and it's Bill Belichick. Like, I know they haven't done anything in the offseason, but Vegas knows best. And I look at this team, and I'm like, if this were any other team, the lack of signings, the lack of trades, the lack of really any activity this offseason would scare the hell out of me. But it's the Patriots, and Vegas still has them at 11 wins for the over-under. Yeah, I think Vegas knows best on this one, and that's where I'll take the over because, look, I think the Patriots are going 12-4 and winning the division again. The rest of them, not a ton that really jump out to me. There's not any really great value anywhere. Maybe one that you might want to play if you're feeling like they're going to bounce back would be Jacksonville. They're plus 100 to go over 8. I think if that defense bounces back, if Nick Foles is half as good as advertised, I think Jacksonville really has a shot to get over that number and get back into the playoffs. But you got to remember, the AFC South is a really good division. And you look around at the rest of that division for the over-unders, the win totals, and you've got the Colts at 9.5. You've got Houston checking in at 8.5. You've got Jacksonville at 8. It's such a tough division. It makes it really difficult to kind of pick what might end up happening in that division. And really, I think Jacksonville does have a shot to win it. I don't know that they will. It's going to be tough getting that defense back to what they did 2 years ago. Couple more interesting ones. One that really stands out to me is the Packers at 9.5. And the under is minus 130. The over is plus 110. And that feels huge. 9.5 for what they did a year ago. With the drama with Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, all of these different things. I don't know if I can take him to go over, but it feels like Vegas is begging you to take the under. Maybe the Packers do end up winning this division. Maybe the Packers do end up bouncing back with a new coach. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is a little happier in his role and things work out. It could happen. And that's where it's an interesting one to me. I want to keep an eye on it. And maybe as we get closer to the season, if the odds don't shift and the over stays at plus 110, or at least you win money on the bet, it can become an interesting play. And so that's what I'm going to keep an eye on as well as we get closer to NFL season, the best season for betting. Remember, mybookie.ag, use promo code DSP on your sign up. You can deposit 50% of your deposit bonus up to $1,000. All right, have a great week. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the Monday Mashup on Monday. See ya.